Well, hello there. In most of these things, I just speak my piece. But all of this stuff that's going on in this country now has got me a little wired up. I can't decide whether people are just criminal or whether they're so dumb they don't know what end is up. And I'm pretty sure most of them politicians back there in Washington aren't smart enough, even though they claim to be from universities like Yale and Harvard and all them fine places. I don't think a good share of them smart enough to pour urine out of a boot if you told them that the instructions was under the heel. Now that's pretty bad. But all of this stuff, I guess they're just criminals because they don't have a clue as to what this country is supposed to be. They don't have a clue as to what liberty is. They don't have a clue as to what Republican government is. Republican government is representative government. And that representative government we're supposed to have is with a union of 50 sovereign states. And Washington is supposed to be the framework that holds the states together. And the states are supposed to be able to, as long as the laws and that they pass and have come under republicanism for the people in that particular state and doesn't push the bounds or break any that's the general laws in the framework of the federal government, it should be all right. It's too big to be governed by that bunch of people back there in Washington, D.C., especially with all the problems that they got. They can't seem to make a happy little family out of that. But anyway, no, California, that Governor Newsom out there, he wants to sign this presidential, or this document saying they're going to outlaw gasoline cars in California by 2035. Well, I don't think it ought to be legal that the governor do it, but if the legislature wants to put it through, the governor signs it into law, nothing wrong with it. California should be able to do it. If some place like Wyoming wants to take and have very lax deals on this for trucks and stuff, as long as they stay reasonable, they should be able to do it. See, now that's the whole thing here. And I got my doubts about a lot of these amendments that they've pushed through over the years. Go back to after the Civil War. Now, they pushed through the 13th, the 14th, 15th, something like that, right after the Civil War. Okay? There wasn't any of them people in the South that was in any positions to ratify them amendments. It must have been mostly carpetbaggers and stuff. But then you get down a few years later, they put them back through again and re-ratified them. Got them legal. But it's a question about them things. Now, it seems to me if it come out of the Congress, it should go to the Supreme Court. Here, you gentlemen, is this constitutional? Doesn't matter if it's going to change what's in the Constitution. Is it constitutional with the Constitution as it stands at the time they come up with the constitutional amendment? By the time it goes out to the states, it's the legislatures that basically say here, yeah, they ratify it. Get X amount of states, they ratify it. Now, we got this two-party political system. I don't think so. I think we got a one-party socialist system with two factions. And when it goes out to the states, most of the legislatures in the states are members of those two factions of the political parties. Now, the guys that are members of that political party back in Congress in Washington, they say, here, we want you to ratify this as a good party member. Them people in them state legislatures, they look at it, oh yeah, I vote for it, ratify it. Good party members. That is not democracy. That's sure as heck not Republican government. That is totalitarian government. Now, we got a few of them amendments that were passed. 16th and the 17th Amendments are the two that come to mind right away. And I don't think they would have passed constitutional muster if they'd have gone to the Supreme Court to be approved, to get sent out to be ratified. But these guys, and they'll sit here and listen to all this stuff. Now, government gets its power, supposedly, if it was a legitimate government. But ours is so corrupted, and it has been so corrupted for so many years that it doesn't really ever come up. But government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. And those people are all citizens under the authority of that government. Now, one thing that nobody understands, and it's causing a lot of trouble now, if a person commits a felony or is charged with a felony, and it goes to the state versus so-and-so for this attack against the state citizens, or it goes to the federal government because it's some kind of a federal law, so it comes up to United States versus so-and-so in this criminal action. And those people are judged guilty, and they are convicted of a felonious act. They lost their citizenship according to original intent. That is why a felon, a convicted felon, cannot own a gun. He is not a citizen. That is why a convicted felon cannot vote. He or she is not a citizen. Now, nobody understands that. That's how corrupt our whole system is. Thanks to the socialists and the progressives and whatever stuff has worked on it ever since, well, for more than 200 years. You go back to that Alien and Sedition Act that was passed under John Adams' term as president, and he signed it into law. Those 4 acts, I think one of them's still in effect. There were editors of newspapers and stuff under those acts that got arrested, got charged, and were penalized for saying things against the government. Strictly unconstitutional when you look at Amendment number 1, even way back when them hillbillies back there, them founding fathers, were in charge. Well, you get this stuff that's going on in these streets and that now. There are all kinds of felonies being committed out there. As far as I'm concerned, and what I would tell the police departments to do, if they're being attacked, now they're getting shot, getting getting that explosive thrown at them, bottles and everything. Just don't go out. Go sit down by the police station, surround it. Stay there. Don't worry about it. Let the people in the community handle their own affairs. When they get tired of it, they might kick them politicians in the butt, and them politicians in them cities and that might call in the National Guard, which should be the state militia, but isn't. And they do something about it. Clear them people out of the streets. Get them put in. Let's take them to court. Let's charge them with these felonies and see how many of them lose their citizenship over it. No. We got very few Americans left, as far as I can see, in just watching what's going on. Them politicians back there in Washington? No. There ought to be going on all kinds of them impeachments. And if you can't get the politicians to impeach each other, then the citizens ought to get together and recall them in elections. Another thing they need to do is put up, and the people, not the parties, the people need to get it put on every ballot for every initiative, for every office, for everything. None of the above. And if none of the above gets the majority of the votes, or gets more than any of the things that are on running for that particular thing, they ought to have to come up with a whole new bunch and put in there, get them. Well, let's have another election on that office. Let's have another election for that mayor. Let's have another election. See if we can find a guy we want to put in as governor. That's what they ought to do. That is actually the American way. This stuff that's going on in the streets and that, this is the old Bolshevik revolution. This is the old commies and the brown shirts of Adolf Hitler fighting in the streets of Germany. This is the things that was going on in Italy when Mussolini got himself hung by the people finally. See? It's all kinds of things. Well, had my say for this. Talk to you again, but you be good to each other. Try to be anyway.